And welcome into this episode of Time Out with the Guys. I am Brad Burton. He is Carter Foley. Good to be here tonight. It's been a pretty interesting week of sports so far with a lot of football games going on. Game 1 of the NBA Finals tonight between the Miami Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers. Baseball playoffs already in full swing. Oh, man, this week it's, like I said, it's been kind of chaotic so far. A lot of things happening, like I said, in the sports world. The Falcons, of course, having a typical collapse. What a shock right there. So, yeah, that's how it's been. Luckily, though, it was against my favorite team, the Chicago Bears. But like I said, we have a good show tonight, and can't wait to get into this whole, this whole collapse thing. It'll be fun.
Oh yeah, I heard you screaming during the game, and obviously I could say the same thing when the Seahawks played the Cowboys. So a lot of good NFL matchups, of course, on Sunday. But yeah, definitely excited to talk about some of the games with you later tonight. Just for
the record, I don't scream. Okay, I just sit in my room quietly with the lights turned off and just watch the game and
get higher under the covers.
Exactly. Well, we'll see what happens later on this season. But anyway, starting off with football talk here today, obviously the big news is the Tennessee Titans. Boy, this is something I know we were talking about before the season got going, with teams testing positive or players from teams testing positive. And the Titans, of course, have now been affected by the COVID-19 virus. So last week they played against the Minnesota Vikings, and after they got their positive test comes back, they shut down all their facilities. And so right now their game against the Steelers has been postponed till at least Monday or Tuesday is what I saw. And like I said, we talked about this early on in the season. We know that come fall time, the virus was going to be spiking up again. Of course, it has been spiking up recently all over the country and parts of it. And now here we are. When I first saw the news, I'm thinking, what's the NFL going to do? Are they going to be like the NBA back in March where they immediately just suspend operations completely, even with teams that did not have any positive tests from players? But they are going to go through with this still. I think they're at a better point now than what they were back in the springtime. Obviously, they learned a whole lot about this virus, how to deal with it, how to maintain it, and what they can do. So as of right now, with the team being shut down for now, and we'll see what happens. If the game will go through Monday or Tuesday, it's going to be kind of a quick turnaround for both teams, no doubt about that, because if you play on a Tuesday, that's going to be a really quick turnaround there to play on a Sunday, whatnot. But still get a couple days there to hopefully rest up the bodies, get rejuvenated, set for Sunday. And if you got to play on a Monday night, that's obviously going to be pretty good too. We'll see what happens with that. But like I said, I know this is an issue that we talked about here too. Come week 4 or 5, of course, now we are approaching week 4 already. This is an issue, and is it going to be an issue carrying on the rest of the season? Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, obviously, when we first were starting the show, we had some of our concerns about the NFL season. And how they weren't doing a bubble situation, and so far it has worked out until obviously the Vikings and the in the Tennessee Titans game. So, hopefully all the players and some of the personnel on the team recover, and they're going to be okay. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure the players, the staff, people in some of the arenas, because obviously, in some arenas in the NFL, people have, been coming to participate and watch the game. So, at the end of the day, it's not too big of a deal to, play an extra game on Monday Night Football or even Tuesday or even further than that. But I think the NFL is pretty determined that, they will play on Monday or Tuesday. So, we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But I definitely think this won't be the last time this happens for the rest of the season because, like you mentioned, it is fall time. It could, easily blend in with, just a common cold, and, it could spike that way. So I definitely think there's going to be a higher probability that, more teams around the league eventually, have these kind of mini outbreaks on the team. So, we'll just have to wait and see, and hopefully the NFL can, limit as much, interaction as they can, and keep testing as often as they can too. But it's going to be hard. I mean, there's 53 players to a team, and then you got coaches, you got personnel, staff members of teams. So there's a lot of people involved, and you can't. It's just almost impossible to control what all those guys do at all. For a whole season. So. We'll just have to wait and see, but, hopefully everybody recovers swiftly.
Absolutely. And like we talked about there too, obviously with the weather now changing dramatically now, approaching October 1st here now, no doubt it is going to be getting a lot colder now, especially as the days carry on. And with teams, like you said, every year, even without this, without the virus, there's always teams with players just coming down with the illness. They may miss practice, and obviously they fall on the injury list, not because they're injured, just because they haven't been feeling so good over the past week, but they will still suit up and play. But now it comes to that point where you do start to feel sick, even if it's just a common cold, the runny nose, sneezing, a minor cough, whatever the case may be. You definitely have to be aware of that. And of course, like we talked about there too, obviously with the flu too, that's good. That's going to be a huge factor as well. So a lot of things are going to be getting complicated. So we'll see how they decide to approach this come when fall gets deeper into it. Obviously, we are in fall right now, but once we start to get much more deeper into it, so we'll see what happens with that. But like we talked about there too, with the Minnesota Vikings, they have not had any positive tests, so that's a good sign for them, of course. So I would appear that they will still go scheduled, or they will play their game as scheduled there with the Houston Texans. And with the Vikings, they did shut down their facilities, but they will be reopened there on Thursday. So that's a good sign for them, at least, to get ramped up for their next game and stuff. Obviously, the Vikings are off to a tough start, 0-3 this year. Doesn't get any easier for them. Houston, we'll see what they can do. Obviously, Houston's off to a tough start as well. Yeah. Then you got Seattle as well. So for the Vikings, they're definitely having a tough go of it right now for them. But overall, though, not surprising to say the least that we're starting to see some positive cases come up here with with some players on the on a team and stuff. It's unfortunate that the Titans have to be the first team, but they are still going to go through with this. That being the NFL, so we'll see what happens with that. But now moving on to some big games here. Let's start off with the Chicago Bears and the Atlanta Falcons. And oh my gosh, what a game this was. Hard to believe that the Bears came back and won this game. Obviously with Atlanta, it's been a crazy season for them so far. No surprise. Usually they always drop their first game of the season, so that's no shock for them. That's just how the Falcons have always kind of been. But then the Falcons have a tremendous offense. That's no question about that. Obviously, Matt Ryan, he's a phenomenal quarterback. He's been the MVP before in this league. Obviously, Calvin Ridley, he's emerging as a superstar wide receiver. Julio Jones did not play in this game, so that was kind of a tough blow for them. But overall, though, they were still playing phenomenal football without him. And just phenomenal offensive plays by the Falcons. I mean, they had a tremendous start, and Chicago was off to a slow start as well. Defensive wise, they were looking a little gassed at times. Obviously, when you're out there on offense for not a long time, defense has to come back out and do what they got to do. Of course, with the Bears not having their nose tackle Eddie Goldman this year because he opted out because of COVID, so they are playing a little bit short-handed right there and trying to get guys in and out there at the nose tackle spot. But overall, though, the Bears, they were able to hang in there, come up with some big plays, and of course, Mitch Trubisky was kind of was the top story here in this game. Had not a bad start, but not a great start either. He was having some moments there where he was shining, but then eventually Nick Foles came in and he saved the day for Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. when Nick Foles entered the game, it was definitely kind of a breath of fresh air for the Chicago Bears. And obviously, it was really good to see him out there. Obviously, he kind of was banged up last season in Jacksonville and, didn't really get to play a lot. And then when he kind of came back, it just kind of wasn't the same. So I think it was kind of a good thing for Nick Foles to, finally be on a kind of a new team. And obviously when Trubisky kind of struggled in the, late the second quarter, kind of, all of the third quarter, having him out there, definitely nice for the Bears. He threw for, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception as well. And the interception came kind of right as he was, coming out there for the Bears. But definitely a really good comeback win for the Bears. Obviously, it's been kind of a lot of their wins have been, 2 comeback wins from obviously when they played the Lions and now the Falcons, and then, just kind of trying to sustain the lead against the Giants when they were kind of coming back during week 2. So, good start for the Bears, 3-0, and they're going to play more difficult opponents down the road, of course, but definitely a good start for them. And, Falcons, again, it was tough for me to watch that. Just I was not hoping that they won, of course, but hoping that they wouldn't blow such a lead like that. Obviously, you see here 9 minutes and 20 seconds in the third quarter, 26-10, and they come back. So obviously, the Falcons need to look some things over on paper, and but you got to give the credit to the Bears because they came back on offense, and defense held up when it needed to as well.
Absolutely. For Chicago, definitely. Nick Foles came in to give the offense just a much different vibe. I think he gave a lot of players more confidence too right there. And overall, though, it was just a crazy game for sure. And when you're kind of thinking there too, obviously with the Falcons having that collapse against the Cowboys, you're thinking, is this going to be deja vu all over again? And a funny coincidence too, it seems like when their opponents have 10 points, they always seem to come back there and make the comeback. Atlanta, I just don't know what the deal is for them. You look at the Super Bowl that they had there back in February of 2017 against the Patriots, just a big collapse right there. That's no excuse right there. You're up 28-3. That's right there. You just got to start pulling away. But they just couldn't do that. Tom Brady, that he proved right there then why he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, in the Patriots as well, back when he was on that team. But overall, though, for the Falcons, again, boy, Dan Quinn, I know he's been the hot topic now for coaches getting fired, and that would not surprise me. That tends to be the case, and I think overall for Chicago, and they did name Nick Foles the starting quarterback going forward the rest of the season. So I think that is the right decision, of course. For Trubisky, he has not been consistent at all. He throws the deep ball, which is good, but he cannot hit the target, for God's sakes, and that is just getting so annoying. So I think for Mr. Trubisky, this is the best thing for him at this point right now. I get it. He was picked second overall. You had Mahomes and Watson there before you could pick Trubisky, but I don't know. That's in the past now. I really don't try to look back on that, but it still gives me pain. Still it gives me a lot of painful moments seeing Mahomes and seeing Watson out there striving. But hey, it is what it is at this point. But Nick Foles, we'll see what he can do. Obviously, he's not the greatest quarterback in the league, but he has a cannon. So we'll see what he can do with that. Obviously, he is a Super Bowl MVP for a reason because he played phenomenal against the Patriots.
Absolutely.
Back in back in February 2018 in that Super Bowl. So we'll see what happens with that. But tough news for the Bears as well coming out of that game. Tariq Cohen did get hurt, and it was a torn ACL. So a tough break a really tough blow for the Bears right there. Obviously, Tariq Cohen, he's been a phenomenal player in this Bears offense. Obviously, when he was drafted, I was wondering, who is this kid? He's 5'6". Is he even going to last in this league? And he's done a great job so far. And no doubt, like I said, this is a huge blow for the Bears. He strives in that offense. He was doing a really good job this year. Last year was a tough break for him. He didn't really get the opportunities right there, obviously, with the offense not really striving when they needed to. So obviously it affected his stats there as well. But this year, though, he was in for a big season. Luckily, though, he did sign a 3-year contract extension, so he is going to be coming back next season, hopefully healthy and better than ever. But still a tough blow for the Bears for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, week 2 obviously was a really bad week for injuries, and week 3 had its moments too. But yeah, obviously that is a big loss for the Chicago Bears. Obviously, they're going to miss him for the rest of the season. But like I said earlier, I think definitely a good win for the Bears. I think the Falcons should have won that game, but like we mentioned before, they do blow many leads, and we've seen it the last 2 weeks, against the Cowboys and now against the Bears. So really good win for the Chicago Bears. Good 3-0 start. I mean, it only gets more difficult as the season progresses. So, want to stack up the wins as you can. And, some of those wins, too, no matter how you get them, they feel good, especially when you go to the locker room. So, those close games, it's competitive. It's the NFL. You never expect it to be easy. So, and there was a lot of uncertainty too for the Chicago Bears as well. For the quarterback position as well, and Nick Foles has certainly answered that call, and until he starts to digress, it's pretty much his team at this point. So. But I think the Bears have moved on from Mitchell Trubisky. I think they are going to draft probably young. I would say next season. Get somebody else, get somebody new in there. But Nick Foles is a very solid quarterback, like you mentioned, Super Bowl MVP, won a Super Bowl with Philadelphia. A good guy to command that position. So I have no complaints about them switching out the quarterback position. It's just going to be interesting to see kind of how he looks for the rest of the season, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely going to be kind of an exciting time for Chicago. Like you said, it does get easier for the Bears, obviously, this year, especially with Green Bay being in the division. They're off to a really good start, and we'll get into that game here shortly. But for Nick Foles, no doubt, this is definitely his team now. I would say this is his team, and listen to Allen Robinson this week, talking very positive about him. Obviously, I know for Mitch, this has to be a tough, a tough thing for him right now. Obviously, you had high expectations when you were drafted, and 2018, you kind of you were living up to him, and then come last season, you're supposed to just excel completely, but that was not the case in this year. He had good moments, but just during those times, though, when they needed him to step up, he just was not there. And look, I get it. This year, with no preseason games, with a whole lot of things getting called off because of the coronavirus, I get it. This offseason was completely different for so many people. Hearing about Mitch Trubisky in training camp, his footwork looked phenomenal. He looked 100% better in the pocket. That's good, but he's not competing against anybody. There's no opponents out there. There's no preseason games. We'll see what happens. And Nick Foles was getting some heat too during this game. Obviously, he had a bit of a tough start there, but I will give him the benefit of the doubt. There was no preseason games for him. He didn't really have a chance to really go out there and compete at all. He was just kind of thrown in there, and he did a really good job. I'll give him that. So I'm really excited for Nick Foles. The Bears, their game against the Colts next Sunday. Phil Rivers, we'll see what he can do. Obviously, last week he had a really good game through his 400th career touchdown pass, so congratulations to him on that. Obviously, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Phil Rivers. He is the best quarterback without a Super Bowl championship, I would say, right now at this point, being in the league for such a long time. Too bad he doesn't have one yet, but we'll see what he can do with the Colts now, almost to the Chargers. So it's still trying to get used to that a little bit, but no, it's going to be odd seeing him play with the Colts. I haven't seen it yet in person on TV, so we'll see how that all turns out. But yeah, Bears moved to 3-0. That's cool, but it's a 3-0 start I'm not really too excited about at this point, because reality is they could be 0-3 when you think about it.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that, but hopefully they'll just give them a little confidence boost with now Nick Foles going to be there at the starting position there at quarterback. So I'm excited for that. Speaking of that, now let's move on to one of the all-time greats. Two all-time greats, Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees. Boy, this game was something to watch for on Sunday night. Didn't see the whole game myself because I always fall asleep pretty early because I have to work early, which is fun. But either way, though, Green Bay's off to a 3-0 start as well. So that division there in the NFC North could go down to the wire. Obviously, hate to say it, a lot of my Bear fans will get pissed off at me for saying this. I would say that the Packers right now are they do have the upper hand in this division, I would say. And obviously with the Saints now off to a 1-2 start, they are without Michael Thomas, although the Packers were without their star wide receiver, Devontae Adams. So for the Packers, though, Aaron Rodgers had to utilize his weapons a little bit differently and stuff. But boy, Aaron Rodgers, he is looking phenomenal this season so far. He's playing like the old Aaron Rodgers I seen back in 2010, 11, 12. 13, I remember he was hurt with the collarbone. And then 14, he won the MVP. Also did that too in 2011 as well. So this Aaron Rodgers, he's looking phenomenal even at 36 years old. He'll be 37 in December. Hard to believe. It's kind of sad when I think about it, because I've seen these guys when they were 24, 25 years old, and now here we are in 2020 where they're all old now. So either way, though, that's what happens in life. Of course, you get old. So either way, though, this game was fun to watch. Obviously, with the Saints, they were missing Michael Thomas, no doubt, still out with the ankle injury. But Green Bay, though, they were controlling their own destiny during the game. Saints did all they could But at the end, though, Green Bay came out. They won the game. 3-0 start for them. This team is be really fun to watch going down the stretch.
Yeah, I definitely think the Packers are one of the best teams in the NFC. Obviously, I think the Seahawks are right there with them, of course.
Oh, no
those
doubt.
Those are my two top teams in the NFC, and it's not really too close at the moment. Obviously, it's still very early in the season. Anything could change. Injuries could affect a team. But at this point, I would say those are the two best teams in the NFC. But like you mentioned, Aaron Rodgers playing absolutely incredible. 3 touchdowns on the game, I should say. He's just been looking really good. Obviously, he kind of had a slow start to last season, but he's looked really good in just 3 games this season. And I think he's only going to get better. That's even without, his one of the main starting wide receivers for the Packers too.
Yeah, Devontae Adams.
And Aaron Jones has been playing really good. Have him on my
phenomenal.
fantasy, so I'm really happy about that, especially after Saquon goes down. But Aaron Jones has definitely come a long way as well. He's been playing really good this season, and he's one of their kind of main targets too. And the Saints kind of have obviously they haven't looked quite the same this season. Obviously, Michael Thomas is still not available for Drew Brees, and obviously we know what he's capable of at the wide receiver position. But it seems like the whole team's a little bit off. Obviously, the defense has its moments where it kind of reminds me of a few years ago, but I feel like they're giving up a little bit too many touchdowns at the start of the season. They maybe have to fix some things as well. But maybe when Michael Thomas gets back for Drew Brees, I feel like the offense maybe will get something going again. Obviously, Alvin Kamara has been playing really good. For the Saints offense, 139 yards receiving and 58 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns on receiving. So he can really do it all. The Saints are lucky to have him, and obviously we talked about it too a couple weeks ago when the Saints were thinking about shopping him, and I bet they're looking back at that now saying, you know what, we're glad we paid this guy because he's pretty much our only offense at this point. So, it was a close game, 37-30. Packers have, showed it, the last few weeks that they are one of the best in the NFC. I think it's just a little bit of a speed bump for the Saints. I think, when they play some of their more divisional opponents, I think they'll get some of those wins back. Definitely don't see them being a 13-3 team, but I definitely can see them still making the playoffs at this point.
Absolutely, for sure. I think the Saints, no doubt, will honestly. I will say this too. So far, I think they will win the NFC South still at this point, despite Michael Thomas still being hurt, and like we talked about there too, with Alvin Kamara still, kind of having to take over the wide receiver duties right now because you see his carries, only 6 carries, but still 58 yards. But then that's why you see Latavius Murray getting the most carries, though, in that game as well. And Emmanuel Sanders kind of trying to get him more involved. Obviously, this is a new team for him, so trying to kind of get him familiar still with this offense, trying to get him playing with Drew Brees right there, because obviously a lot of these guys had to step up now in bigger roles without Michael Thomas. Even when Michael Thomas does come back, though, you have to expect, though, that he's not going to be probably 100%. They kind of have to ease his way back into it, not being able to play and stuff. But I think overall, though, for the Saints, they should be fine, even though despite a 1-2 start. I think they started off 1-2 back in 2018, and they still went to the NFC Championship game. Obviously, we know how that ended for them with the BS pass interference call there, or that wasn't called actually. But either way, still. The Saints, though, they have a good team around them. Drew Brees didn't play bad. Of course, 29 out of 36, 3 touchdowns, no picks at all. But, boy, you think about Michael Thomas is there right now. Boy, those numbers could be a lot higher for Drew Brees. And, of course, for Aaron Rodgers, too, only 283 passing yards, you got to think. But Devontae Adams, if he's in there, boy, his numbers will be a lot higher there as well. But either way, though, for the Packers, a 3-0 start for him. Aaron Rodgers, like we talked about there, too, he's just – over the past couple of seasons, we know back in 2018, the first game against the Chicago Bears, he suffered the knee injury, came back and won that game, which still breaks my heart. But still, we can know that injury was kind of affecting him throughout the season. Obviously, it was a knee bone bruise, so a bone bruise, that's as bad as it can get because of course it's not broken, but still a bruise to the bone is just not what you want to deal with. So he played through that during the 2018 season. Last season, no. Was looking kind of like you talked about, a slow start, but still the team was doing really good around him. Their defense still had some good players there. Obviously, they've lost some guys this year, but they're still picking up the pace or picking up the slack there that they need to pick up, and been doing a really good job so far this year. boy, I'll tell you what, for the Packers, they're definitely on a roll so far this season, and it would not surprise me to see him competing for possibly a Super Bowl championship. Aaron Rodgers, I know, again, Bear fans are probably going to get mad at me, but I hope he does get another Super Bowl ring, because he deserves it. Because you look at it, back in 2010, he beat the Steelers. They should have easily won a second straight championship back in 2011, 2014 as well. Although, of course, against the Seahawks, that was pretty nice. I'll admit that, because I was a big Seahawks fan that day. I was pretty excited when Marshawn Lynch got that late touchdown towards the end, and then Wilson to Jermaine Kearse.
A lot of miracles that game.
Yeah, that was a really fun game. At the beginning, it wasn't for me. I mean, I'm sure for you it was.
Oh, no. It was not good.
It was tough at first, but hey, it's not where you start. It's where you finish, and that's what happens with Seattle. They came out when they needed to, and they did a great job. Speaking of Seattle now, boy, this game right here was pretty fun to watch, too.
Oh, yeah.
You were screaming, going berserk. No, I'm just kidding, of course. I mean, hey.
I had my moments.
Hey, it's all good. This is why we love sports. You have to have your moments when it comes to sports, but for the Seahawks and Dallas Cowboys, America's game of the week, boy, this is something to watch for. Boy, this game is kind of going back and forth a little bit. I was kind of surprised. I thought Seattle was going to pull away right there at the beginning, but Dallas, though, they were hanging in there a lot of the time, and Dak Prescott, a phenomenal day for him, 472 passing yards, of course, as we see there on the graphic. But boy, Seattle was kind of having to try and find their rhythm. They had to get into a rhythm there, and eventually they did, and that's what got them the victory. And I'll tell you what, for Seattle, like you talked about with Green Bay being at a 3-0 start, no doubt, Seattle and Green Bay are one of the best teams right now there in the NFC.
Absolutely, and it was a really back and forth game. Obviously, there was moments where I thought Seattle would break away, and Tyler Lockett, of course, had a fantastic game, 3 touchdowns on the day. Just incredible effort by him. But I think one thing that we do have to realize from the Cowboys is I definitely could see them winning the division at this point. I know it's very early, but I mean the NFC East is just such a weak division. Obviously, the Eagles have struggled. The Washington football team, they looked good in the first game when they came back against the Eagles, but ever since then, they've just looked mediocre, of course. And oh man, I don't even want to talk about this play.
Oh my gosh, I need fantasy points, DK.
Exactly, but Cowboys have an extremely good offense, and I don't think anybody can take that away from them. Their offense is incredible. They have so many wide receiving targets, and as well Dak Prescott just throwing the ball. Ezekiel Elliott, when he gets it going, he's a threat. So their offense is extremely good. I believe they're number 2 in the NFL this year. The defense obviously wins championships, and their defense does struggle, and that's obviously why Russell had a day against the Cowboys defense. He threw for 5 touchdowns. He's on a historic pace right now as well. So but I think just because if the Cowboys were in the NFC West, I would say, well, obviously I don't think they can make the playoffs, but they're in such a weak division that I think they're gonna walk away with it unless one of those teams starts to make a real big turnaround. And the only team I could really see that doing that would be the Philadelphia Eagles if Carson Wentz can kind of figure things out, of course. But overall, this was a really good game. Just 2 good teams kind of going after it. And for the most part, Seattle had a chance to run away with it, but at one point the score was 30-15. But the defense for Seattle has struggled a little bit. Obviously, they really don't have a pass rush, so it's pretty hard to get to the quarterback at times. And they had some injuries as well in this game. Jamal Adams really didn't play for most of the third quarter, and not at all in the fourth quarter. He might not even play next week against Miami. So when you miss some of those key pieces, it's really hard for a defense, especially when there's a really good offense like the Dallas Cowboys. So I think it's still early in the season. We've only been through 3 weeks right now, so there's still a lot of time for a lot of these teams, a lot of the defenses to kind of figure things out and kind of get back on the same page. But I was happy with the win, of course. It was back and forth, and you love a good football game. A little bit too close for me once again, just like when Seattle played New England. 2 really good games once again. I'm just again happy that the the Seahawks walked away with the win.
Absolutely, definitely a phenomenal win for them, and and it definitely was a crazy game right there. Got interesting there towards the end, of course, but Seattle was able to come out and prevail. And it just shows you about the fight that this team has, obviously, with Russell Wilson. Just so far, a phenomenal season he's having so far. 14 touchdowns, 1 pick. Boy, what more could you ask for in the first 3 games of the season right there? And, of course, I did see the stat. So far, he's on pace for 74 passing touchdowns this season. Not sure if that's going to happen or not, but, boy, when you think about the season that he's having, he's definitely going to be in the MVP consideration. Hopefully, it's hard to believe he has not gotten even 1 vote at all to be the MVP. I get it with Patrick Mahomes back in 2018. He just had such a phenomenal season, 55 passing touchdowns, all that. So no doubt that is going to get you the MVP right there. But yeah, overall though, just for Russell Wilson, boy, he's just, like I said, a phenomenal season he's having so far. And the Seahawks, they came up when they needed to, in the moments that they needed, that they had to make some big plays. So far, it's just been a phenomenal season for him. Like I said, the 3-0 start for them, and no doubt that this team is competing also for a Super Bowl championship. I know it's kind of been quite some time since they got that championship back in the 2013 season, so we'll see what they can do going down the rest of the way. We know it's week 3 still, so it's still kind of early, but boy, what more can you ask for being 3-0 right now at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, the games that they have played have been tough wins, obviously, to play the Patriots and then the Cowboys, who, like I mentioned, have a really good offense. Those aren't easy wins. So hopefully next week will be a little bit easier for the Seahawks. I know they're playing Miami, and they've kind of had their struggles. They've been struggling the last few years, and so hopefully it'll be another win for the Seattle Seahawks. But it's NFL, and anything can happen. I saw last year the Arizona Cardinals went to Seattle and they beat them, and they were 10-2 at that point, or 11-3 or something like that. So it's tough competition in the NFL. So you can never, you have to, like I mentioned earlier, when the Bears and when the Falcons and Bears highlights, you have to take every win. You just have to accept it, and you have to be happy with it, because they're hard to come by in this league. So no matter how they happen, it's still good to walk away with the W, and especially to be undefeated in the first 3 games. It's a good feeling for a lot of the football teams.
Absolutely, for sure. Definitely can make a difference going down towards the end of the season and stuff. That way, when you kind of approach, you can say week 12, week 13, where you're still trying to fight for that playoff spot right there. And of course, how they kind of do it right there with the teams that are still in the hunt. And usually when you're still in the hunt, that's where you not want to be at the point, because then you got to rely on other teams to either win or lose. So that's not where you want to be at that point. So yeah, if you're a team like Chicago, Green Bay, Seattle, Kansas City, of course, which we'll get into here later on. Of course, we know how the Chiefs, there's so much dominance right there with them. So no doubt they don't really got to worry about that unless major injuries happen to them. But yeah, no, being 3-0 at this point, it's what you want to be right now. What more could you ask for, like I just said? So definitely it's going to be a huge boost for those teams going down the way. Obviously, last time the Bears started 3-0, they finished 8-8. So hopefully we don't see a repeat of that. But overall, though, like I said, it's been an exciting time so far. And I know, speaking of another team that's not actually 3-0 right now, that would be the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
Boy, this game right here, I got to see some of the highlights right there when they were cutting away to it. And the Bills, they just got by the Rams and the Bills were up big too. This is almost it was almost a collapse. I don't know what happened. They got the Falcons somehow in them, but the Bills were able to prevail this time. So maybe the Falcons should take notes from the Bills on how to have a collapse. I'm trashing Atlanta now, and I like Matt Ryan. He's honestly one of my favorite quarterbacks. I mean, I have a good amount of respect for him, but when you have those types of collapses, though, it's hard not to make fun of them. That's just how it is. But for Buffalo, though, they were able to get by the Rams and move to 3-0. But the Rams, though, boy, they had a big second half, scoring 29 points after only having 3 points there in the first half. So at least the Rams, though, they didn't give up, but at the end, though, it was too little too late for them. And the Bills, Josh Allen was able to get that last-minute touchdown right there to seal the deal. And, boy, I'll tell you what, when Josh Allen was drafted, of course, looking at the quarterback class right there, obviously there was Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, and then Josh Allen. And then Lamar, of course, was in that draft class as well. When I looked at Josh Allen, I'm thinking, okay, here's a guy. His stats at college were not going to throw you off. I mean, they weren't like, oh my gosh, like they're not Baker Mayfield stats. They weren't Sam Darnold stats back when he played at the USC. But Josh Allen, though, he's really emerging as one of the you can say good quarterbacks right now. Still has some room to improve, but he's definitely improving each and every week. His rookie season showed a lot of potential right there, despite having to miss some games due to injury. But last season, he was able to kind of show off what he can do for a full season. And this year, after making the playoffs last season, kind of having that positive off season, then of course, obviously this off season was a whole lot different because of teams not being able to meet up and stuff because of COVID up until training camp. But overall, though, we knew Josh Allen and the Bills, especially with Tom Brady now going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, not being there in the division no more, that was going to give them some breathing room. Obviously, the Patriots, no doubt, are still a really phenomenal team, but overall, though, for Buffalo, they had a lot of momentum going into this season, and right now they're showing it at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously, like you mentioned, Buffalo did make it to the playoffs last year, and Josh Allen was emerging as a real quarterback in this league. Obviously, there was points where, or points in the season a few years ago where, maybe you decide, he's just not quite there yet. But, with time, he's only gotten better and better. And this season is a great stamp of just what he's capable of. Obviously, he threw for 4 touchdowns, 1 interception on the game against the Rams, 311 yards. So, have to give him credit. Obviously, I think they have a really solid team, a team that could definitely compete in the AFC, especially in that division too with the Patriots. Obviously, the Patriots, like you mentioned, are a really loaded team as well. And I think also we have to give credit to the Rams. I mean, they almost fought back and won, being down by so much. Obviously, like you mentioned, they scored 29 points in the second half. They were just so close. And obviously, there was a little bit of a controversial PI call in the end zone, which it was 4th down. And that basically would have ended the game right then and there. But instead, Buffalo got 4 more attempts basically at it, and Josh Allen threw a touchdown. So, I still think, good game by both of these teams. I definitely think, the Rams should have walked away with it. I didn't totally agree with the PI call, but still, for the Bills and Josh Allen to come back and win the game by almost blowing it, I mean, that definitely is a good feeling. Definitely have to talk about some things too to make sure that doesn't happen again, because like we mentioned throughout the show, wins are hard to come by in the NFL. So, good win, good win for the Bills. And if you're the Rams, I think the Rams have played really good this season to start off. Even though they lost this game, I definitely think they're going to be a threat. And the NFC West in general is going to be a huge threat, just in the NFC itself. So, not a bad loss for the Rams, and I think they're only going to get better as the weeks go on.
Absolutely. It's, of course, with the Rams this season, obviously last season not having the season that they were hoping to, coming off that Super Bowl loss, we thought that they were going to be big time contenders right there in the NFC West, but that was not the case. Obviously, San Francisco having a much improved team last season, of course, with Seattle. Definitely, when you're in a division with the Seahawks, no doubt it's going to be either Seattle or somebody else fighting for that first place spot right there. And of course, with Arizona this season too, they're definitely trying to improve as well. I know they had a tough loss there against the Lions, but still, though, they're off to a pretty decent start as well for them. But definitely for the Rams, so like I said, you cannot, you can't count them out, especially when they're down big. They definitely did what they tried to do. Jared Goff played phenomenal there in the second half, but eventually, like I said, it was just too little too late right there at the end. Obviously, the PI call there did definitely kind of screw them over. That's for sure. But at the end, Buffalo did what they had to do. And Josh Allen, boy, like I talked about, this guy, he is definitely special. He is special. It seems like every time I criticize the quarterback, because this is what I did with Carson Wentz back when he was drafted. I said Carson Wentz was not going to be the big thing. I mean, right now, of course, he's really not. But that was before, of course, all the injuries started to come to him. But Josh Allen, though, I was pretty critical of him. I will admit that. And I was wrong about that. I was critical of Lamar Jackson, thinking he couldn't play at this league. He's more of a runner and stuff, but he proved me wrong right there. So I'll probably have to keep my mouth shut when I'm criticizing these quarterbacks. I didn't say anything about Trubisky. I think I was too upset about that, so I didn't really say anything about that. Mahomes, Watson, I was pretty well. I really wanted Watson in that draft. That's who I really wanted. But either way, enough of my Bears problems. I need to stop looking back to the past. This is giving me PTSD. Yeah, but for Buffalo, though, like I said, 10 touchdowns for Josh Allen, one pick, so he's off to a really fast start this season. Be excited to see what he can do going the rest of the way. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, the battle of the MVPs. Oh boy, Monday Night Football was actually fun to watch for once this season so far. That being the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. Like I said, the battle of the MVPs. Last year's MVP, Lamar Jackson. Boy, I'll tell you what, Kansas City, they were not going to put up with him at all in this game. They really gave him a hard time there. And with Kansas City, they just dominated this game back and forth. Obviously, Lamar had a good start to the game himself, but Kansas City said, nope, not going to happen. So for them and the Chiefs and stuff, Patrick Mahomes doing what he does best, making all these crazy plays, no-look passes. And boy, Kansas City, they just came out and were on fire right away from the get-go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what it comes down to is I think Andy Reid and the Chiefs just outcoached Jim Harbaugh and the Ravens. That's ultimately what I think what it comes down to. Obviously Patrick Mahomes had an incredible game, as you see right here, 4 touchdowns for him. Incredible performance by him. Obviously, Lamar just wasn't quite himself, had 2 fumbles on the game, only threw for 97 yards. So obviously not MVP numbers right there from the former MVP last season. Obviously I think the Chiefs, without a doubt, I would probably say are the number 1 team in the NFL right now. I think their offense is really good, and I think a lot of people too don't give them enough credit on defense as well. Their defense has really kind of come together, and obviously in the Super Bowl too, when they were down by 10, the defense really kind of helped them get back into it. Obviously the offense scores points, and we know that, and that they'll score touchdowns every game they play, but their defense really did help them kind of get back in that game during the Super Bowl. So just a slow night for the Ravens offensively. Obviously they did have a kickoff return, which definitely did help at the time, but the offense just wasn't really clicking. The defense for the Chiefs was pressuring Lamar, not letting him escape the pocket. The wide receivers were being banged and taken down early as soon as they caught it. And also too, one thing I noticed when watching the game, Lamar, there was a couple throws where they were there, but Lamar just did not make them. There was one to Marquise Brown that could have been a touchdown. It was just overthrown. Then there was another one too to Marquise Brown. It wasn't going to be a touchdown, but it was definitely going to be for probably 20 to 30 yards. And he just underthrew it. So he has to be a little more consistent. Maybe practice those plays a little bit more. But consistency is key, and we've seen the best quarterbacks in the league, Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes, make those plays consistently, and that's why they're the best in the league.
Absolutely. Like you said, Patrick Mahomes really just being consistent almost there on every single play and just lobbing the football right there. Of course, we do know him kind of as a gunslinger. Kind of shows me that Brett Favre stuff in him. Obviously, Brett Favre was a gunslinger back in his day early on with the Green Bay Packers and Patrick Mahomes. But boy, it seemed like when Baltimore was just getting to him, putting the pressure on him, he knew when he had to get rid of the football. So that's what he's always been good at and stuff. When he sees the pressure coming to him, he's able just to find a way to make something positive, and that's what he does rather than just kind of stand there taking a risky shot right there. And holy cow, it passed to his offensive tackle right there to Eric Fisher, the 2013 first overall pick right there. So good to see him getting some action there as well. Not too often you see your offensive tackle there making a touchdown there, a receiving touchdown, because we know linemen, of course, they're not known for their catching hands. They're more known for the blocking stuff. So overall though, but the Chiefs really just came out and they just were on fire right away. And for Lamar Jackson, just a tough night for him. Obviously, when you're there at home, you're kind of feeling good about having the home field advantage. Of course, we don't know that the fans make a huge difference when they're there. But either way, though, for the Kansas City Chiefs, they're off to a big start, 3-0 this year as well. We always know with teams when they go to the Super Bowl and they win it, they kind of have that hangover. The hangover and stuff. And of course, that's how it is with all sports. Obviously, in baseball, when you win the World Series, you have a hangover. But next season, obviously, because you were celebrating big time. But for Kansas City, I just did not expect that from them this season. And right now, they're showing it. They're just having a phenomenal season so far. And I'm not shocking to see them back in the Super Bowl representing the AFC. That's going to be no shock right there if that tends to be the case. So for Kansas City, no doubt this is a big game or a big win for them. Big game, of course, as well, because, hey, you have 2 phenomenal teams there in the AFC. This was a possible AFC Championship game preview that we were possibly seeing. obviously, if Baltimore wants to get back there, they got to play a lot better than they did on Monday night. So that's for sure. So we'll see what happens with that. But Patrick Mahomes, he's off to a great start this year. No interceptions at all through the first 3 games. He's starting to do a lot better job at protecting the football. Last year, he did a great job at that because we know back in 2018, his first year as the starting quarterback for Kansas City after they traded away Alex Smith to the Washington football team. Mahomes was kind of not, I mean, I don't want to say he's being careless with the football because he was doing a great job with it, but at times, though, he was just kind of letting his arm do the thing, and then he eventually will get picked off for it. So coming off that season right there in 2018, of course, he won the MVP. He did a much better job last season in 2019, and this year so far here in 2020, he's doing a lot better job at protecting the football, and that's paying big for this Kansas City offense. Tyreek Hill, just phenomenal. Every time he gets the football, he catches it, he's off to the races there. Sammy Watkins also doing a good job there as well. So Kansas City, they're in great hands right now with this offense for sure under Andy Reid.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, kind of like you mentioned, it seems that the teams that go to the Super Bowl and sometimes even win it, they always kind of, aren't as good the next season. Obviously, I think an exception would be obviously the New England Patriots because they're just so well coached by Bill Belichick. But I think we have to start knowing that the Chiefs are going to be one of those teams for the next 5 to 10 years because they have Patrick Mahomes. He's just that type of player. So
for sure.
I wasn't really surprised that the Chiefs won. I thought the Ravens were going to make it a little bit closer. I thought it was going to be a closer game because obviously some of those points, didn't even come from the offense. It came from the kickoff return, and then, the last touchdown kind of came in garbage time for the Ravens. So it wasn't the Ravens' best performance by any means, but I definitely think the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. But it's going to be interesting. Obviously, the Chiefs, and we'll talk about this a little bit later for who you got, but the Chiefs and Patriots play next week, so
they do.
That's going to be a really good game. Again, another potential maybe AFC Championship matchup right there if the Patriots can kind of keep it going. So again, I think Andy Reid has done an excellent job the last few years, especially last year and the beginning of this year. And even though, the game 2 against the Chargers, week 2, I should say, they were kind of a little bit slow. They really started picking it up in the third and fourth quarter and ended up winning that game, off of a field goal attempt. So, like I mentioned, no matter how you get these wins, they're special, especially in a tough league like this. So for the Chiefs to be 3-0, definitely not surprised. And it's going to be an interesting game next week, though, when like I mentioned, when the Chiefs play the Patriots. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, for sure. That's going to be a game to watch for sure. Obviously, Tom Brady was still on the Patriots. They make it a lot more fun, but Cam Newton's off to a really good start so far there for the Patriots there as well. So either way, though, definitely going to be exciting to see how Kansas City goes throughout the rest of the season. Andy Reid finally showing off because we always know he's been a great head coach. He just hadn't gotten the Super Bowl championship up until last season. So no doubt he is one of the best coaches there. Before he got the Super Bowl championship, he was the best coach without a championship. So no doubt this team right here, Kansas City, boy, with what they have going right now, it's just special for sure. They just do a good job of getting their players locked up, keeping their guys around and stuff. And I know, of course, going down the road and stuff, guys will come and go. That's just how the business works. But no doubt Kansas City, though, they're going to do whatever it takes to put good players out there on the field. It's been kind of cool to see Kansas City. It only feels like yesterday that they were a team that went 2-14 back in 2012. And obviously that was a really not a good season for them, dealing with some personal issues right there with the team-wise. But then once they kind of get to Andy Reid, they start to have that big turnaround there under Alex Smith. And then you draft Patrick Mahomes in 2017. So this is where you're now starting to kind of feel where Kansas City, they're at a point now where they're just going to take off and be one of the best teams in the AFC, no doubt, making the championship game almost every single season. They'll be representing the AFC, I think, in Super Bowls for years to come. Patrick Mahomes, no doubt, getting locked up big time for his future. So he is in good hands there with Kansas City. But I'll tell you what, Pat Mahomes he's so much fun to watch. This guy, boy, I'll tell you what, he is just something to watch for. And just making all these crazy throws. Like I said, he feels the pressure. He sees it. He's able to make something positive happen, even if it's like a small gain. Hey, that's better than 0 or taking the sack for a loss of maybe 10 yards or so, because we see him moving around in the pocket there. So I think he does a great job at looking down the field. Like I said, he makes those no-look passes, which I don't know how he does it, but he's good. Travis Kelce, tight end, good night for him as well. So I'll tell you what, this Kansas City team, boy, they are going to be tough in the AFC. Now, of course, move on to the games to pick here for week 4 before we go into break. The first game, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Tennessee Titans. If this game does get played, which hopefully it does. I mean, that would really suck if it does not get played. But
good game here.
It would be good for sure. Steelers Titans, boy, Titans of course. Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry. That's a good combo right there. That you have. I know for Tennessee, it's been kind of a tough start for them so far this season. Pittsburgh though, Ben Roethlisberger, he is back under center there at QB for the Steelers. I will take the Steelers here in this matchup. I think it's going to be kind of a close game if it does get played. Hopefully, we'll see what Tennessee can do if they can go through this game without not having players test positive for COVID. But I will take the Steelers here in this game. I'll give a final score prediction. 24-20 is my score prediction for that game.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully this game, takes place. Obviously, it's not going to take place on Sunday. The NFL has already announced it. It's like we mentioned, it could be played on Monday or Tuesday, or even maybe a little bit further after that. But again, both undefeated teams right here. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to give my prediction to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think with Big Ben out there, he's been playing great, better than ever. Obviously, he only played 2 weeks last season, I should say. Then he had the shoulder problems and was out for most of the year, or for the remainder of the year, I should say. So he's been looking excellent. The defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers has been incredible, and the Tennessee Titan offense has seemed a little iffy, especially against that game against Minnesota. They kind of had their moments where Ryan Tannehill didn't look his best. So I'm just going to give it to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're an overall better team at the moment at the beginning of this season. So I'm going to say my final score prediction is 28-21.
All right. Now our next thing we have here, like we just mentioned there, with the New England Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs. Boy, this game is going to be fun to watch, no doubt about that. Oh, boy, this game right here. Obviously, the Patriots, though, Cam Newton being back this season, hopefully not getting hurt. He's been doing a really good job so far for the Patriots. Still kind of trying to find his run in there, throwing the football, but no doubt he is a runner. We all know that. He's doing a great job with that so far this season. Boy, Kansas City, this game's going to be really fun to watch for sure. No doubt about that. I will give my upper hand to the Chiefs in this one. My score prediction will be 31-25. I think it's gonna be kind of the back and forth game. Of course, that's what I expected there with Baltimore. That was not the case, but I think with the Patriots, still with them kind of having coached by Bill Belichick, he just knows how to get his teams ready to play. Although, of course, like I said, with the Chiefs, I think they will win this game. Like I said, I was praising Pat Mahomes earlier. I'll say it again. He just knows what to do when he's feeling the pressure. He knows what to do. He escapes it. He doesn't panic. He does what he has to do, and that's why he is no doubt the best quarterback, one of the best active quarterbacks right now here in this league. I think the Patriots still, they'll do whatever they can do to stop him. I think they'll make the Chiefs, or on defense, when the Patriots are playing defense, they will make it hard at times for the Chiefs, but I think the Chiefs will prevail when they need to, and that's when they'll score those points, putting them up there, and that's why I think the Chiefs will win this game.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give my prediction actually to the Patriots. Ooh. I think kind of like how on Monday Night Football after the game, Lamar was asked a question and he said there are kryptonite. I think Patrick Mahomes' kryptonite is the New England Patriots just because of Bill Belichick. Obviously, he's had a number against Patrick Mahomes, and obviously just in the few games that they have played, in the regular season and the postseason. So I think the Patriots are a very good team. They're obviously very well coached by Bill Belichick, and they have Cam Newton, who has been playing excellent so far in this season. Obviously, their only loss is to the Seattle Seahawks, where it was one play and they easily could have won that game, so they could be possibly an undefeated team. So I think how in Monday Night Football the Chiefs kind of outcoached the Ravens. I think it's going to be the Patriots out coaching the Chiefs. Obviously, I think it's still going to be a pretty high scoring game. Obviously, both teams' offenses are pretty good for the most part, but I'm going to say the final score is going to be 31-28. It's going to definitely be close, but I'm going to give the edge to the Patriots.
All right, and for our last game we have here, we got the Philadelphia Eagles and the banged up San Francisco 49ers. Hey, they actually did pretty well last week. They were playing against the Giants, but hey, the Bears almost lost to the Giants, so I shouldn't be talking smack about them. No, 49ers, for how banged up that they were to score 36 points, that's pretty good right there. I'll give them that. Yeah. So for the 49ers, Eagles just not looking good this year. Even their own fans that weren't there booed them in week 2, which was pretty hilarious. So I'll give my upper hand to the 49ers in this game. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is supposed to be back. We'll see what happens with that. But Nick Mullins still looked pretty good last week, of course. 49ers will win. I'll give them a final score of 23-10. That'll be my final score prediction right there for that game. 49ers, I know this year was supposed to kind of be a year where they hopefully kind of try to get back on track, get back to the playoffs, which they could still do. It's going to be a lot tougher at this point with all the injuries that they've had, but we'll see what happens with the rest of the teams there in the NFC. Hopefully they get that wild card spot. No doubt the Seahawks are going to win that division, I think. But I think, though, getting back to this game specifically, the Niners will beat the Eagles. I don't know what the deal is for them. They just cannot find the rhythm and stuff. Carson Wentz, I get it. They've been to the playoffs, though, for the past couple seasons. But after that Super Bowl victory that they had, of course, Wentz did not play because he tore his ACL. But since then, no, he's just been not looking good out there. He's just not been consistent enough at times. And I think for the Eagles, this is now kind of a point where do they turn to Jalen Hurts? We'll see what happens with that. But I think the 49ers, they will win this game.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give the edge to the 49ers as well, I should say. I think the Eagles have really struggled this season. Carson Wentz kind of looks like he's playing scared out there, and I don't know if he's just scared to get another injury or whatnot. Obviously, he's just not looked that good so far this season, and obviously the Philadelphia Eagles defense needs a lot of tuning up. It's not very good at all. They didn't let the Bengals score that many points, but they're the Bengals, and obviously I know they have Joe Burrow, but that team is still a long ways away from competing in the playoffs, I would say. So the Eagles definitely need they need to figure some things out, and obviously it's hard to I know they drafted Jalen Hurts, but it's Carson Wentz's contract, it doesn't go into effect until next season, which is a 4-year deal. So he's pretty much locked in for another 5 seasons. And when he's playing this poorly, I mean, who wants to make a trade for him at this point? I mean, you would have to give up so much just to take that contract on. So I know the Eagles don't really want to do that because I think they know if they start Jalen Hurts, then that's just going to ruin the relationship between the Eagles and Carson Wentz. So but I'm going to give the edge to the 49ers, like I mentioned. I think, obviously having hopefully Jimmy G being back out there, I think he's definitely going to take advantage of the Eagles' secondary when throwing the ball, even if George Kittle doesn't come back. I'm not sure if he's coming back or not, but I still think that the 49ers are just a little bit better coached with Kyle Shanahan. Obviously, they have that good playoff experience last season, going to the Super Bowl. Obviously, I know they were just a little bit short of winning it all, but still a really good and well coached team. And I'm going to give the edge to them. I'm going to say my final score prediction is going to be 28-17.
All right, and there we have it right there. Some game predictions right there that we have. And yeah, kind of get back to the Carson Wentz. The contract. I just saw that right there too. Yeah, 4 years, $128 million, $107 million guaranteed. So boy, that's definitely you think about there too. You got him locked up there, kind of at the wrong time, I think. Yeah. Right there. But hey, you thought at the time he was your future. He was looking good before all the injuries started happening. It's just unfortunate. Like you said, he is playing out there, kind of a little bit. Trying to figure out what he wants to do, not trying to get hurt. And I get it. When you've been hurt so much, you're tired of it. So you have to try and find ways to not get hurt. But unfortunately in football, though, that's if you're the quarterback, you're going to get hit. So that's just how it is at this point. And Jalen Hurts, boy, for a guy who has a lot of potential, I think, what are you going to do with him? Is he going to get traded eventually too, or what's going to happen with him? So with Carson Wentz, if you're a team that needs a quarterback, but you don't want to take on Carson Wentz because you'll be dealing with all those injuries there if you have him on your team. So we'll see what happens with that, but it's going to be interesting for sure to see what happens here in the next coming weeks, coming into Week 4. All right. So before we go into break here, I think we should probably do this. Obviously, Game 1 of the NBA Finals is tonight, starting here very shortly. I feel we should give our predictions for Game 1. So for Game 1. Boy, this could be a really exciting series right here. The Lakers and Heat, LeBron going up against his former team. What more could he ask for about that? Obviously, of course, if D. Wade and Chris Bosh were still playing there on the Heat, that'd make it a lot more fun there. But Jimmy Butler, though, a guy who's played LeBron several times in his career. Boy, Lakers Heat. Game 1, I'll take the Heat in Game 1.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to the Heat as well. Obviously, the Lakers have kind of struggled in Game 1s during the playoffs. I think the only time they actually won a Game 1 was against the Denver Nuggets last series. I definitely think the Heat are really well coached by Eric Spoelstra. Obviously, they have an incredibly deep bench. Their starting five is pretty ridiculous. Really good. Bam Adebayo versus Anthony Davis. I'm really excited for that matchup, as well as Jimmy Butler versus LeBron James at times as well. So I think it's going to be a very close game. I would say if the Lakers do win this game, though, they're going to win in 5. But if the Heat win it, I think Lakers are going to win in 6. So, but I think, like I said, it's going to be a really good final series. Definitely going to be an interesting one. First ever finals from the bubble. So hopefully we don't have to do it again. But definitely a good experience, I guess. And the NBA has done an excellent job of making it feel like home games as much as they can. So very excited to watch the game tonight after the show.
Absolutely. Definitely be fun if this was taking place at the Staples Center and American Airlines Arena. For sure. That'd be really fun. Definitely, no doubt about that. And I think the Lakers, they will win the series overall, but we'll see what happens, though, in the next coming games when we come there. All right, we'll take our first break here. When we come back, we'll dive into some more NBA talk, obviously with Doc Rivers. He is now a free agent coach on the market. Where will he go? Houston, Philadelphia? We'll see what happens with that. Also with baseball, too, the playoffs, they are in full swing right now. The White Sox, A's, Cubs, Marlins, blah, blah, blah. I know so many teams are playing right now. So we'll get into that here in the second part of the show. This is Time Out with the Guys. Be right back. Stay tuned. And welcome back to Time Out with the Guys. If you're now just tuning in, I am Brad Burton. He is Carter Foley. Now diving into the NBA talk here. Like we know, Game 1 of the NBA Finals is starting tonight here. Hard to believe it's starting already at the of course, at the end of September.
Yeah.
Did not expect that, but hey, at this point, we'll take what we can get. And but like I said before we went to break here, we got a pretty good NBA Finals matchup. I think we could say. Obviously, the past couple of years it's been the Golden State Warriors, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Last year, though, we were lucky enough to get the Raptors finally out of the Eastern Conference. Now this year, we get the Miami Heat once again. But hey, this is kind of a whole new different team for them, player-wise and stuff. And of course, LeBron is back in the NBA Finals once again, but this time, though, with a different team, of course, that being the Los Angeles Lakers, and of course, with Anthony Davis making his first finals appearance as well. I know, of course, for a lot of players, definitely kind of curious to see how they feel about this. Obviously, with this year and stuff, this season has gone on for well over one calendar year, of course, obviously because of the COVID-19 pandemic, putting a halt to operations, not just for the NBA, but for many sports as well that we're planning on to get going, especially with baseball. But right now, though, here we are. It's been quite the road to get here, but like I said, we are here now, and at this point, it is at the end of September, but at this point, you just got to take with what you can get right now.
Yeah, I definitely, think people are, especially basketball fans, are definitely happy that, the playoffs happened. There was really no, interruptions with COVID, of course, and as an NBA fan myself, it's just been awesome to watch the restart happen, to watch the playoffs happen. A lot of good playoff matchups that we've loved talking about on the show, especially with the Denver Nuggets, of course.
Yeah.
And now we're here at the finals, and good matchup. Obviously, I think we thought that Milwaukee and the Lakers were going to have the best chance to to get to this point, and obviously the Heat kind of surprised a lot of people, including me and you. So obviously we can't take anything away from Eric Spoelstra. They're very he's a very excellent head coach. I think he honestly deserves more recognition for his work. He's just been a consistently good coach for the last decade, really. He's just been excellent. So, they have an incredibly deep bench. The Heat do. Like I mentioned, great starting five. And for the Lakers, you have to give credit to LeBron James just for being so consistent too. Just for, obviously the Lakers didn't make the playoffs last year. He was kind of injured, and, they just didn't have the, the key pieces like an AD at the time. But now they're here, first time since, Kobe was in the finals back in 2010. So, it's definitely kind of a surreal moment for the Lakers. And obviously, I think a lot of us NBA fans, if you're not really a big Miami Heat fan, you're probably rooting for the Lakers just to kind of, hopefully that the Lakers can honor Kobe's legacy. And, even if the Lakers don't win the finals, it's not going to take anything away. They still had a great season. Obviously the Lakers, AD talked about it too during like a pregame or pre-finals, bubble interviews, basically talking about how this year for the Lakers has been very difficult, obviously with Kobe passing away, then COVID, and probably a lot of internal things that he didn't really mention. So, it's just been a tough year for a lot of people. So for them to even get to this point, it's a huge accomplishment. I know that me and you were both rooting for the Lakers, but he are a damn good team too. And, I'm definitely not going to be disappointed with either outcome. Both good teams playing, and that's what you want in an NBA Finals.
Absolutely, for sure. And kind of getting on to now, mentioning Kobe right there, no doubt. This is like I talked about there too for the Lakers. This has kind of been a difficult thing for them. Obviously, when you lose a guy like Kobe Bryant, who brought so much to the NBA, so much to a lot of fans, a lot of just a lot of people there too. Even if you weren't, like, let's just say a big NBA fan, you knew how much Kobe meant to the game. Still, his personality, all what he meant to. But no doubt he is smiling above there, up in heaven right now. Same with his daughter Gigi, no doubt about that. And what way can you honor Kobe by getting that championship for sure? So definitely for the Lakers, you're definitely pulling for them. But for the Miami Heat though, I love Chicago. I'm a big Bulls fan. Of course, I call the Lakers my second favorite team. But Jimmy Butler, of course, I've always been a fan of his. Even when he came up there too with Chicago, when he was traded, I was still a fan of his. I still am. So it kind of makes it a little bit tough for me because like I said, with Jimmy Buckets, I've always liked him. I've always been a fan of his. I still am. And hey, if he gets his first ring, that's going to be huge for him. He deserves it for sure. The road has been for him too as well. A guy who got kicked out of his parents' house, had to really just kind of go from home to home, stay on friends' couches, do household chores and stuff. That way he could have a home. And then he goes off to college, to junior college for one season, dominates there. Goes off to Marquette, he dominates there. And then he just gets drafted there towards the end of the first round by Chicago and really just emerged himself as a star in this league. Obviously, when Derrick Rose was hurt, that's when we saw Jimmy Butler start to rise to stardom, and that's when he really started to shine. And definitely it was tough when the Bulls traded him, but I get it. At that point, I think the Bulls were ready to head in a different direction, of course, under that front office. You didn't know what direction that they wanted to go in, because it was really complicated because they didn't know what they were doing. Now they do hopefully have a direction and what they want to do. So, but Jimmy Butler being at a point in his NBA career, now where he's at, boy, it's been quite the road for him too as well. And a lot of these players that we know in the NBA, LeBron obviously kind of having that childhood as well, where he didn't have a father pretty much, having to kind of go from house to house with his mom. So, really, I think for these players, you look at them, it's like, wow, they had a really kind of a rough upbringing, but now here they are at this point shining on the spotlight. And definitely, like I said before we went to break, I know we would rather be watching the NBA Finals on TV when they're playing either at the Staples Center or American Airlines Arena. So hopefully next year we get something like that. But right now, though, at this point, hey, it's been quite the road. And you just got to be happy, though, that we are getting the NBA Finals, because there was talks back in the springtime with the NBA just pulled the trigger on the season and say to the Lakers, Bucks, I know you guys have had great seasons, but we're sorry we can't go through with this next season. Hopefully you guys get there. But I'm glad with what the NBA did. Adam Silver, he has just been one of the best commissioners, best active commissioners right now throughout this whole ordeal. He has done a great job so far, no doubt. This has been fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we give Adam Silver a lot of credit, a lot of deserved credit for pulling the plug back in March when Rudy Gobert was the first active player. Obviously, there was more to come kind of as the days went on, but he was kind of the first guy to pull the plug on the season, and a lot of other leagues kind of followed as well, and that's kind of when a lot of unknown was going on in the world too, and I just remember the NBA getting canceled, and then after that, it was just kind of a blank show, if you know what I mean. So, you definitely give him credit for the work that he's done in the bubble. Like you mentioned, we were uncertain if basketball or even sports would be back this year, to say the least. So. Very happy that we're even getting a finals. And yeah, of course, I know Stephen A. predicted back in December that he would love to have a Miami Heat and Lakers finals, but he was hoping that he was going to be down in South Beach and in LA for traveling purposes. But fortunately, he's not doing that, but he still gets the finals that he wanted. So, but yeah, two great teams battling it out. Love to see it go to game 6 or 7, just because I love basketball. I don't really have a favorite team. Obviously, if the Sonics had a team, I would be rooting for them. Yeah. But I'm just a basketball fan in general, so I just love good competition. That's why I love the Denver Nuggets versus Utah Jazz series so much, because it was just back and forth competition. Throughout, and obviously great historical achievement too by the Nuggets for coming back from 2 3-1 deficits against the Clippers and the Jazz. So, just little things like that. Love to see it, but I just hope for, like I mentioned, a great matchup between two great coached and two great teams with great players on it.
Absolutely. It's just been quite the journey to get here at this point, and I know we talked about it here too already quite a bit, but boy, you just don't know how it feels until you get to that point. So definitely it's been rough at times. It's been really hard, especially as sports fans, because you just want something to kind of fall back on there. But now here we are at this point. I know people ask me how you feel about having sports back. I said it's kind of overwhelming right now at this point, because you got so much to follow right now and stuff. Because usually at this point in the year, you talk about college football, the NFL, then baseball playoffs, all that stuff. NBA right now, you're just kind of like, training camp's getting ready to start and stuff. Yeah, we'll see what teams could be talked about and stuff, what teams could compete for a championship. But right now, though, we're at the point where the championships, the finals are taking place right now. So at this point, maybe next year we'll get back on track, hopefully, and we'll see what happens with that. But right now, it's just exciting to see this happen. I know it's been, like I said, quite the road to get here, and here we are. So let's just move forward. That's all we can do. And hey, whoever wins the championship, this is going to mean a lot to them, I would think. I know they're not going to be at their home arenas and stuff. I know people like Skip Bayless has said if LeBron wins the championship, it's not going to mean much to him. Personally, I think this would mean a lot to him.
Yeah.
Because you look at LeBron last year, or not last year, last year, of course, in the 2018-19 NBA season, people were saying LeBron that he was injured. Oh, he's done now. He's washed up. He's not going to be able to do it by himself now. And, of course, he does need other guys there with him to make the team better. But I think LeBron, though, he took that as motivation going into the offseason and stuff. And he really came out in much better shape, much better conditioned. And he was doing such a phenomenal job before. Obviously, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic put a halt to things. But then it comes back. It's kind of been up and down a little bit. But, hey, at this point right now, it doesn't matter. You're in the NBA Finals. Let's see what you can do. You get that fourth championship. Hey, pretty soon you've been talking about maybe going up there into the ranks there in rings with Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant even. Kobe Bryant, of course, has 5 rings. MJ has 6. So LeBron definitely is approaching those guys right now. So definitely be excited to see what LeBron can do, not just in this NBA Finals, but hey, for years to come and stuff. See how he can keep on playing at such a high level despite being 35 years old right now. So definitely been an exciting time right now, so we'll see what happens with that. Now, our last NBA topic here, Doc Rivers. This was shocking, to say the least. I was really shocked when I saw this. Doc Rivers, after 7 seasons with the Los Angeles Clippers, they have decided to part ways mutually, so that was a good job by them to part ways on good terms. We know that the Clippers this season, they were no doubt favorites to compete also for a possible NBA championship. When you bring in a guy like Kawhi Leonard, who won the Finals MVP with the Toronto Raptors, even won the Finals MVP with the San Antonio Spurs back in 2014, and of course you acquire Paul George to, get that big tandem going right there, that duel there with the Clippers. No doubt that this team was supposed to be big contenders, and they were. But in the playoffs, though, they had that big collapse. And eventually, I think for Doc Rivers, they never got to that point where they can get over that playoff hump. And I think for eventually the Clippers saw this as we need a new voice in there. Doc Rivers, no doubt, he is one of the all-time great active head coaches right now in the NBA. Obviously, of course, you have Greg Popovich. He is the best active coach right now. Steve Kerr is definitely among those guys right now, getting so many NBA championships. And I think right now, Doc Rivers, so hard to believe he only has 1 championship. You feel like this guy should have possibly maybe 4 or 5 championships, but only has 1 there with the Boston Celtics there back in 2007 and 8. And now with him not being a free agent coach, he is definitely going to be courted by so many teams. Obviously, Houston is a team that he could go to. I know Philadelphia has been in talks now with him, seeing what they can do. I know with Philadelphia, Mike D'Antoni was a guy that they were looking at. Still probably could make a move on him if they wanted to. But Doc Rivers, surprising move to say the least, but no doubt, once the NBA season does get going next year, whenever that does tend to happen, Doc Rivers will be coaching somewhere, I would assume.
Oh yeah, definitely. And kind of like you mentioned too, I mean the firing or the letting go from the Clippers for Doc Rivers was shocking. I remember kind of seeing that on social media and being like, what? I couldn't believe it. I thought he was definitely going to be there for at least next season. Obviously, it's the NBA and a lot of things can change. So I definitely thought he was going to be the guy for the foreseeable future. But obviously, Steve Ballmer and the Clippers, see a little bit of a different route, and I think that team in general has to overcome a lot of challenges. Obviously, we know just by reading articles and stuff that they were having a lot of team chemistry too, especially during that series against the Denver Nuggets. They were having a lot of internal problems, especially with Paul George and a lot of the other role players, thinking that Doc Rivers and the other coaching staff were treating PG like he was an elite player when really they thought he was as good as them, or as they thought they were as good as him. So there's a lot of things that they're going to have to work out, and I think an executive from the Clippers said the only untouchable player from the Clippers is Kawhi Leonard. So anybody else is pretty much on the table for whatever, a trade or anything else like that. So It's going to be interesting to see what the Clippers do. Obviously, they're going to have to get a new head coach, maybe Ty Lue, maybe another head coaching candidate that we've talked about on the show before. We'll take his spot, or maybe they'll just keep it local with Ty Lue. So, we'll just have to wait and see. But Doc Rivers, definitely not worried. About him coaching next season. I think he's definitely looking for a win now team. So I would say probably my guess would either be the Pelicans, because they have a lot of young talent. Obviously, they have Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, a couple other good role players too. And then even the Philadelphia 76ers. And I know that he's actually in the process of possibly meeting with them in the near future too. So, and those two teams are definitely win now type of teams. That I could definitely see him coaching next season. So definitely a shocking move, though, to say the least. The Clippers letting go of Doc Rivers, but he's an excellent head coach, and I think it's going to be good for both sides. And I think Doc too probably just didn't want to have to deal with that mess that the Clippers are going to have to go through. Obviously, they're a very talented team on paper, but if you're having internal struggles and team chemistry problems, there's not a lot that can really change that unless you really hash some things out. So it's going to be a fresh start for the organization and for Doc, and definitely wish him well in the next part of his career.
Absolutely, for sure. Definitely is kind of like we say, it's still kind of shocking that this happened. But either way, though, I think for the Clippers, they just need a new voice in there. 7 years, that is a long time, of course, and you kind of expect though that he would get them a championship, but that was not the case right there for them. So either way, though, it definitely is kind of sad to see, because we know Doc, he's just been one of the best coaches there. He's been really fun to watch. Obviously, I know when Austin Rivers was there playing for the Clippers, those two, Austin really did a really good job. And I think I was also this season, too, he got him ejected, his dad.
Yeah.
Also, that was pretty hysterical.
Yep.
So that was pretty funny. But either way, for Doc Rivers, no doubt he is going to be getting a job, I would assume, right before his season gets going, like I said, whenever that may be. Kind of now a little, I'm not obviously upset about this, because when the Bulls hired Billy Donovan, I was really excited about that. But Doc Rivers, he's from Chicago. Yeah. So, man, for the Bulls, man, they definitely, if the Bulls are still looking for a coach, I know they would definitely be trying to go after him. That's just what I'm thinking. But, oh, well, it is what it is at this point. I'm happy with Billy Donovan. I'm really excited about that. So, either way, though, but Doc Rivers, no doubt he is going to be on a team next year coaching them. Like I said, with the Pelicans, hey, young squad there, Zion, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, so many other guys there too. They got a good package deal, I think, with that Lakers trade. So I think they do have a lot of good things coming for him. And I think Doc Rivers would work great with that team. He worked well there with the Boston Celtics, there with Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett. Rajon Rondo was pretty young still at the time. So I think Doc Rivers would work well with that young staff. I really do think he would if he was to be the coach of the Pelicans. So we'll see what happens with that. It could be a really exciting time. Also going to be curious also to see how that works out there too as well. But either way, though, like I said, it was kind of shocking to say the least. But at this point, though, 7 years, I think the Clippers, they just want a new voice in there. Ty Lue, I think, would be a great candidate, of course. There, he's already there with the organization, so I think for the players, that would be an easier transition for them if they were to get Ty Lue as their coach, rather than bring somebody from the outside, keep him there on the inside. So I think Ty Lue coaching the Clippers, that would be the smart move. But again, for the Clippers, they'll do what they got to do. I know Steve Ballmer and his guys will do the best job that they can to bring in the right coach there for them. So we'll see what happens with that. Now on to our last topic here. Obviously, the baseball playoffs happening here already at the end of September. It's been a really kind of fun postseason so far. Obviously, the Chicago White Sox, the Oakland A's, the Yankees, the Indians, the Cubs, Marlins, so many teams already competing, trying to get in or trying to advance already into the playoffs. We know about the Houston Astros. They won their playoff series against the Minnesota Twins. Minnesota Twins have now lost 18 straight postseason games. That's hard to believe, but boy, to see the Chicago White Sox back in the postseason for the first time since 2008. I know last week we talked about them, but now to see them going here. I know for the White Sox, they did win game one yesterday. Game two, though, they did lose today, but overall, though, game one, they were just on fire. Lucas Giolito he was on cruise control in this game pretty much. Obviously, the pitching for the Sox was phenomenal there in game one. Game two, a bit of a rough start there for them, but of course the bats came out here too with the White Sox as well. Jose Abreu playing home run derby a little bit. I know Yasmani Grandal got a home run there as well, and like I said, Giolito was just on fire right here in this game. Just terrific performance by him and the Sox squad. like I said, I know for the Sox, it's been it's been quite the road for them too as well to get here at this point. I know it's been the ups and downs going through a young team, but now here they are in the postseason and competing. So it's good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see postseason baseball. It's pretty much around the right time where it would be kind of getting going. So it's definitely kind of good to see once again. And fortunately, the Astros made it to the playoffs. Not very happy about that, but it is good for just to watch postseason baseball once again, and have a lot of good teams competing. Obviously, the Yankees have been playing really good, and the White Sox, like you mentioned, obviously they didn't play that good today, but they're a good team to be a threat as the postseason goes on if they can make it past the next round. So just a great time for some good quality baseball.
Absolutely, for sure. It's been really fun to watch here too. Obviously, the baseball playoffs here in Full Throttle. The New York Yankees, of course, they're kind of up and down thing for them. They always do good. They start off good. They might go on a 10-game winning streak and then they kind of fall off. But hey, it's the playoffs right now at this point, and you have to it's do or die time for a lot of these teams. What you did last year or last season or back in the regular season, it doesn't matter at this point. It's do or die, like I said, for all of these teams. So I'm definitely excited to see how this is all going to work out. Definitely teams right now. I'd like the Dodgers personally in the National League to go back to the World Series. Hopefully they can win it this time. Of course, in the American League, you got the Yankees. They're looking pretty good so far. Of course, they are losing Game 2 right now to the Indians 4-1. But just a lot of teams right now that are definitely trying to get that World Series title this season. And like I talked about there too with baseball, we didn't know what was going to happen this year. There were talks, is baseball going to happen this year? It seemed like one day they were going to have a season, and then the next day things were completely called off. It was just really frustrating. But I think right now at this point, you got to be happy with what you're getting. Once they get into that playoff bubble there after the wild card series, definitely be kind of curious to see how that's all going to work out and stuff. But definitely going to be exciting to see how this is all going to work out. And I know, of course, for the Astros, they won their series, but yeah,
who cares?
Yeah, who cares? I mean, hey, they actually won a series that but they earned finally. They earned it finally. Good job, Houston. You actually earned something without trash cans getting banged on, whatever.
Oh man.
Yeah, whatever. I don't like Houston anyway.
I kind of wish they did lose that.
What's
series.
that?
I said I kind of wish they did lose that series against the Twins.
Well, the Twins can never win a playoff game. That's the problem.
That is the problem.
Maybe once
the Twins.
Yeah, exactly. The Twins, they have a good season, and then they just completely fall off in the postseason. I don't know what happens to them. They just go vague in the postseason. Either way, yeah, it's been hopefully the Cubs lost today, so that was kind of rough. They were up 1-0 of course, and then Hendricks, I don't know what happened. He just we'll see what happens with that. But it's been a fun show so far, and playoffs are back in baseball. The NBA Finals Game 1 already happening right now. Tune into that if you want to. It's gonna be a great game. And
I know we're going to after the show.
Absolutely. And then both our teams are 3-0 right now.
Yeah,
not
a lot to complain about.
Yeah, life's pretty good right now. I would say, despite what this year's been so far, it's been hey, it's going good right now. Let's try and keep it going. Nick Foles is starting now, so that's good. Trubisky, Money Mitch. I'm sorry, it's done now. It's Ditch Mitch now. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But 3-0. I mean, they should be 0-3, honestly. But hey, it is what it is at this point.
Hey, take those wins, man. Those wins.
A win's a win. A win is a win. I'm gonna take it and go with it, and hopefully they can actually get a legitimate win for once. And that's when I'll start feeling much more positive about this Chicago Bears team. So we'll see what happens. But either way, though, it's been a good show, obviously. If you tune in, thank you so much. As always, you can follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, at Twitter, at Timeout Guys, and find us on Facebook, too. Timeout with the Guys, of course. Once again, I'm Brad Burton. I'm Carter Foley. He's Brad. No, I'm just kidding. I'm Brad. He's Carter. Once again, thank you for listening, and have a good night.